Good morning, Bengals fans. It is Sunday, the 2nd of May, 2021, and we're here to review and recap the final day of the draft. A bit later, we have journalist Barry Bullshit joining us to review the newspapers, and we'll be telling you how to make a delicious Sunday lunch out of spam and artichokes. But joining me this morning to go through what happened yesterday is Pete Danswell and Jamie Rowe. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Paul.
How are we this morning? You both look a lot fresher than yesterday, I have to say.
No, I'm worse. You got me up for this. You got me up for this.
Well, what can I say? Your dedication is admirable, Pete.
Draft season is my season.
Well, what a day yesterday. It's a strange day, but also exciting. And, of course, it made more exciting, I guess, because the Bengals had more picks, I think.
Yeah.
And we drafted a whole bunch of people. I'm going to go through them all, but and this is for the benefit of recap and bleary heads and those who've lived under a rock the past several days. So let's just go through them real quick. Back on Thursday night, Friday morning, which seems like a lifetime ago, we drafted Jamar Chase in round 1. Round 2, Jackson Carman, the offensive tackle, stroke guard. Round 3, Joseph Osai, the defensive end. And then we came to yesterday, 3 picks in round 4. Defensive end, Cameron Sample. Defensive tackle, Tyler Shelvin. Offensive tackle, Deontay Smith. And then round 5, we drafted a kicker in Evan McPherson. And then round 6, we drafted Trey Hill. And then round 6 again, we drafted a running back in Chris Evans. And then round 7, we drafted a defensive end in Wyatt Hubert. A lot of picks there. How are we feeling about it all today? Are you happy with the overall haul, Jamie?
Well, very much like most people over lockdown, we've picked up a lot of weight over last night. On Thursday night, you had all the people going, "Oh, what are the Bengals going to do about their O-line? Oh, what are the Bengals going to do about the D-line?" And what they went and did was triple-dipped O-line, quadruple-dipped D-line, and solve those 2 positions. But neither of those are the focus of my attention because they went and got my guy. They went and got Evan McPherson.
All right, we'll come to the kicker a bit later. Because I know that you're overjoyed and you're itching to talk about that selection.
Jamie's right, though, Paul, about the extra weight. I mean, I was keeping a track of this, and then as soon as we had our final pick in the 7th round, got the old calculator out, and 148 stone of extra beef has been drafted in for those 2 trenches. And I think earlier on I remember during the draft process having a hashtag a few times, strengthen the trenches, and that's clearly what the focus has been. There've been some big old boys in there, Tyler Shelvin being the biggest of the lot. 350 pounds, but how many make the final roster remains to be seen. But it does show the intent of the side. We need to get big, we need to get strong in the trenches, and dare I say it, build from inside.
Yeah, I guess it was surprising they did that, even though we kind of wanted them to, right? I mean, I was surprised they didn't go for another receiver, I have to say. Because there's plenty of decent ones out there.
We have picked up one in UDFA.
We'll get on to the UDFAs in a moment. But I was surprised they didn't go for a 3 technique, and they went for an absolute monster in Tyler Shelvin to either play alongside DJ Reader or back DJ Reader up. He's going to see both of them are going to see action in various downs, and I think it's interesting. I kind of I'm absolutely down with it. I think it's a really solid draft, actually. Yeah, just a bit surprising on a few of the picks, I think.
I think there's two ways of looking at the 3-tech issue. Either they're leaving a vacancy for 3-tech open for someone who they've never shown proper tribute to after his departure, probably because he may be coming back, Gino. The other one is that I think Sample, I can see that they'll kick him aside. I can see he will be a Sam Hubbard light. I think he will play on the edge, and then on third downs, he's more likely to kick inside.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sample gives you a lot of positional flexibility, doesn't he? He looks good on the outside, but also he's big enough and strong enough to sort of kick inside.
Yeah.
On in sort of some nickel packages, you know. All right, okay. Let's just go through the picks real quick. Then we talked about Jamar Chase and Jackson Carman, Joseph Osai. So yeah, we just talked about Cameron Sample as well. Interesting pick, and then Tyler Shelvin, again from LSU. He's massive, isn't he?
He's enormous, absolute unit.
I mean, I'm sure you would have seen the video which went round fairly quickly afterwards in the post National Championship celebrations of LSU, when Joe Burrow's surrounded by players, and you normally expect 2 or 3 teammates to come behind him and lift him up onto their shoulders. No, just one guy did that. Tyler Shelvin just picks him up, puts him on his shoulder like he's a parrot, and off he goes. He's a strong old boy, is Tyler Shelvin.
And I believe that a lot of people didn't he sit out last year as well? Is that right? And
he only had one season starting. So,
but then in that season, a lot of people had first round grades on him. So I think value wise, looking at it, I was a bit like kind of another defensive tackle, big lad. What's that going to mean for Josh Tupu? What's that going to mean for DJ Reader? Where's he going to fit in? So I was a little bit, okay, yeah, fine. Nothing too exciting there. But the more I look at it and the more, I see what people say, it's like, oh, okay, there could be some value in that pick there. And it looks good.
I watched the Draft Network podcasts on video. They would often focus on a team, focus on a player of a team and say, who can we draft to benefit that one particular player? And whenever it was a team in which they needed help in the trenches to stop the run, as they were going through the mock draft, they were saying, well, hopefully Shelvin's there in rounds 3 or 4. So he was their go-to run stopper for rounds 3 and 4. So picking him up there, I thought was good value.
Yes,
we got him for free, didn't we? Because we got him for that extra pick.
Yeah. Right. So we move on to round 4, the second round 4 pick. The second round 4 pick. Deontay Smith, the offensive tackle. Jamie, I don't think any of us knew too much about him. What were your thoughts on that pick?
I mean, I'm not sure I still know much about him. But it's another guy in there. It's another tackle or guard onto the roster. We don't know where he's going to eventually play out. I would have thought that the Bengals were kind of satisfied with having Adeniji and Fred Johnson in as backups. I think sort of they're 2 perfectly good backup level tackles. But, we'll see what Deontay brings.
I actually think that was a very, very good pickup. I was delighted when we got him. I mean, when I looked at sort of the very late in the draft offensive line pickups, in guards, it was like Kendrick Green and the like. For the offensive tackles, it was Stone Forsyth and Deontay Smith. And so when we picked him up, I was delighted. He's not going to be kicking inside the guard. He's got extremely long arms, which is great because we seem to be tackles with shorter arms. So, I mean, he's going to be competing with Adeniji and Fred Johnson, but he could be quite a good pickup, a very good pickup.
And he looks as though he's, like you mentioned, the prototypical tackle in terms of size and arm length and movement. And a lot of people are kind of saying, good pickup. But I think, again, he's a developmental, I can say it this morning, developmental project. Which,
yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Now then, round 5. I think we can only go to one person for comment on this, and that's Jamie. Kicker, Evan McPherson was selected. How delighted were you when they selected Evan McPherson?
Well, I've been going on about McPherson for a while now. I started off the draft process without having kind of paid much attention to kickers, and then stumbled across, kind of in a bored moment, a load of Evan McPherson highlights, a load of Evan McPherson Pro Day stuff, and he's ridiculous. He is absolutely ridiculous. The leg strength is absurd. He's only missed a couple of field goals in college, and they were sort of 58 yards. And it's a really good pick. And if this
too
goes
early,
right,
though, do you think? Too early?
No, nowhere near too early. We drafted Colin Hill in the 5th round, and that lasted us sort of 15 years.
And where did we draft Jake Elliott? Do you remember? I can't remember.
Yeah, 4th round. It was within 3 or 4 picks of where we just got McPherson.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, when you say too early, theoretically, yes. But when you've got a shed load of picks and you've got a small board, as teams had, they didn't have as many players on their board because they weren't able to scout as much. You've got those picks. You've got to use them. If there's a guy you like, you go and get him. No one else was picking a kicker. You could have left it to one of your picks in the 6th round and comfortably got him, but very comfortable. If they think he's the guy, go and get him.
Well, I think Darren Simmons came out yesterday and said, when you draft a kicker, you always have to draft him almost a round too early just to make sure you get him, because there's only so many out there. And if you need one, then you got to go and get one. And I think we all know that they needed one and they went for him. And pretty amazing. I think a lot of people, a few of the sort of, the loudest Twitter draft people were kind of like, kicker in round 5. But then I have to say, people like you and I and the rest of the fans out there just go like really, really pleased. It was universal, pretty much the love that Evan McPherson got. Yes, and of course he was trained by former Bengals legend kicker Shane Graham. So that's another nice link back and call back to Bengals past there. But I mean, I think he's good.
If things go well, this guy could be Justin Tucker. I really think that he.
I was saying he was asked who his favourite kicker was, and he said Justin Tucker, so that's quite ironic.
Yeah. I think he's easily capable of kicking 60-yard field goals if we need them. And obviously, I'm as big an advocate of trying to go for it on 4th down as possible. But if we really need a 60-yard field goal, I have every confidence in him of making it. And
the interesting thing, listening to him, there are 2 things that really stood out. First of all, he said he's never had a last-second, first half or second half, last-second kick. He's not had what they call a walk-off kick, and he's looking forward to that. I think he enjoys that moment. And secondly is that he enjoys 50-yarders more than shorter kicks because it's a challenge. I love that. Now, that's the mentality you need for a kicker, not someone who's going to say, oh, my right calf, no, my left calf, no, my right calf, wait.
Well, let's hope they don't kind of do what they did with Jake Elliott and engage him in some ridiculous charade of a kicking competition and then actually choose.
But he's fallen into a purpose position, though, because he's gone to a team where there is no established kicker. There are only 32.
I mean, you can argue that Austin Siebert is the number 1, but I mean, not
half a season, not even that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. Right, after Evan McPherson, we went back to...
Sorry, Paul, before we move on, did you see the video clip went the rounds of when he did the bottle top challenge? That was cool. That was
sure that he was meant to actually hit the bottle, and it kind of...
No, he spoke about
really? There's got to be some sort of
James,
no, there's points of artistry there. That's beautiful.
You two are just disbelieving souls. It's sad that your lives.
I loved it. It got the fan base completely energized. But
it did. I mean, in an interview, James Rapine asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, I just wanted to show how accurate I could be." That sort of stuff. So I decided to do it. And he was asked how many times it took, and he said, "Oh, about 30 or 40." I think you had a 0 onto those.
Stuart Baird says, "Good morning, all. How are we? Didn't think I would be so excited about drafting a kicker, and I think seems to be the universal feeling, really." Mozza says, "Really like the edge guys we've picked up. OL all seem like projects with good upside, decent draft." Talking about decent upside, round 6 we get into, go back to the offensive line. Trey Hill, the centre, stroke guard. And again, no one really mocked him. No one really knows too much about him. But
I had him in a few mocks.
Did you?
Yeah. The issue with him is that his pro day was abysmal.
Right.
So kind of all these RAS scores that get posted up, he does not look good at all on them. His tape is better. He looks competent at centre. I think he'd be backup level, but I suppose that's what you're looking for from a 6th rounder. He's got good versatility, and I think this is kind of possibly a Michael Jordan replacement for a guy who can come in and do a job at any interior position.
I mean, he's a multi-year starter for the Georgia Bulldogs, and that's a big program playing the best teams all throughout. He's 6th rounder for a reason. He's not a 1st or 2nd rounder, but there is something about him, and I'd rather hand him over to Frank Pollack than almost anyone else to see what we can get out of him. So no, I was pleased with that pickup.
Right, another 6th rounder was Chris Evans. Look at that hair.
Yes.
Captain America.
Amazing.
The Big Breakfast / TFI Friday.
Yeah.
The Americans won't know
that. One of my draft guys, I just wanted to put it out there, only because I very rarely get anything right when I predict the draft. But
doesn't it feel good when one of your guys suddenly gets picked up?
It's such a rare thing.
That's the beauty of immersing yourself in the draft process, of doing all these drafts and what have you, that when you stumble across someone and then you pick them all the time, and then by miracle your own team suddenly says, we agree with you, Peter. We're going to trade. We're going to draft.
Exactly. It was down to me. It was my doing. That's what I'm saying. It was all.
I mean, the last time that happened to me, it was PJ Dawson, and that didn't.
That didn't go well, did it?
Oh dear. Now that's not true. You've now got Evan McPherson. He's your guy.
Yeah.
No, you can claim Evan McPherson. Absolutely. Obviously, I like the pick. There were a couple of decent running backs out there. Michael Carter and Kenneth Gainwell. Demetric Felton went to the Browns. I know Nathan Sangara really liked him. But Evans looks good on tape. I have to say, he can do it all. Really, he can go through the tackles. He's got some moves. He's not super quick, but he's quick enough, and he's really good out of the backfield. And Pete's got a visitor there. I see.
One of my dogs has decided to come and visit me.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, I think she's also very, very pleased at the draft. Come on.
Yes, well, it looks at it. Yeah. That is quite pleased. Wow. So Chris Evans is a good pick, I think. And really, it was the first skill player, you could say, since the very first pick in the first round. Everything else up to that point had been in the trenches, really, which is, I think, quite astonishing, but quite good.
I mean, they didn't need a quarterback. They'd gone for Chase. They'd gone for a tight end. They picked up a tight end just before the draft in Moss. So what else were they going to do? They were always going to look at running back, but they were never going to do it very, very early. No. So it wasn't too much of a surprise to me that they didn't go skill position much more.
And they went back to the trenches for the final pick, the defensive end from Kansas State, Wyatt Hubert, who apparently has got a motor that would terrify people. And his hair's quite ridiculous as well. He looks like someone from, I don't know what, Rush circa 1993 or something. So I hate draft grades because it's usually a bunch of people on the internet and on websites who get angry when they don't pick the players that they mocked to various teams. That's why a lot of teams get bad grades. But I am going to ask you, before we get on to the undrafted free agents, we always said we should look at this draft class as a whole rather than in individual terms. And, a lot of people were I think people were delighted that we picked up Jamar Chase, but there were some out there who were kind of, would have preferred going Penei Sewell. How do you grade, or at least what's your sort of overriding comment on this draft? Are you more or less happy with it, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm more or less happy with it. I don't agree with draft grades this early on in the process.
No.
I think they've picked up players at positions of need, so that's something. Our biggest position of need was probably interior O-line. They've double dipped there. We've gone and got a young playmaking superstar in Jamar Chase, and I really don't see how that's going to fail. He's going to bring life and fire to the receiving core. I would have liked a linebacker. I think that's a position that still needs a bit of work, but there's plenty of space in free agency to do that. I'm broadly satisfied at the moment, and obviously we only need sort of 3 or 4 of these to really kick on, and it's a successful draft class.
Yeah, I sort of, that old phrase that it's all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. I think that's kind of me with this draft. Really, I do like the draft when you take it as a whole, because as Jamie said, you've got a potential superstar in Jamar Chase, and you've got to love his confidence, his brashness, but also his work ethic, and also he's got everything to back it up: the physicality, the speed, the stats from LSU, the connection with Joe Burrow, which is actually, I think, is quite low down on the list of, that's the headline for a lot of national media.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase reunited again. But actually, to me, it's quite a nice marriage in what we need schematically. And I think, just his physicality and his speed and his kind of confidence and his slight brashness, but you know what I mean? I like that. And that's a great pick, obviously. Jackson Carman, I'm still a little bit, you're asking a tackle to play guard for the first time. I know he's got the physical traits, and this is one for Frank Pollack, and I think it is, second round project. It is a project, I think, and it could go either way, couldn't it? You would desperately want him to succeed, and I'm right behind him. But all the guys from Jamar Chase onwards, as you said, they've picked up big guys in the trenches, and that's kind of all we asked for. And I think Zach came out yesterday and he said that they will be addressing various positions in free agency, and of course roster cuts are coming up at the end of this month. So I'm if I were to give it a grade, I'd give it a B. I think it's a solid draft, and I love the Joseph Osai pick. That's my favorite pick. I think.
we spoke about this off air, that the Americans, when covering sport, have a desire to have an empirical way of assessing everything, and power rankings and grades. And sometimes, very often, when the national media are looking at it, they don't understand the nuance or the specifics in that individual organisation. Whereas if you look at grades being put on it by beat writers and the like who do know the organisation, there's a lot more validity to those. I'm with you. If I was asked to do something, I would say a B. I tend to be overly optimistic at times. Jackson Carman is only affected, to me, as a pick by who we could have got. That's the difference now, because I certainly set my heart on another offensive lineman who we didn't get, and we had the chance to. But Carman was high on their board. And I remember Carman in the early part of the process, when you're on the draft machines, he was a first-round tackle. Now, that didn't pan out over the course of the season. But having him in the second round is no surprise. And I think I wouldn't call him a project. Not even kicking inside, I would not call him a project.
Okay.
But he's still got to hit. And for this draft to be successful, I've always said you need rounds 1 and 2 to become starters in year 1, round 3 in year 2, round 4 in year 2, and then you just hope that someone in rounds 5, 6, and 7 that you can pick one up those. If you get that, you've got a really solid draft.
Jamie, you agree with all that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a point that needs to be made is Jackson Carman kind of fits the Bengals in round 2, sort of. For their history, for perhaps the last 15 years, they've always gone and made a slightly off-kilter round 2 pick. And, I mean, usually it doesn't work out. So, you know, temper your expectations as much as you want. But it is a very Bengals thing that they are to round 2 what the Raiders are to round 1. They have their guys, and they usually come out and sort of completely blindside other people, with the exception of last year. Last year they took T. Higgins. That was both expected and sensible.
So that second round lineman they took was Jake Fisher.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say. Carman is Jake Fisher. That people say, oh, that's a sneaky good pick if it works out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that goes, to be honest, that goes for every draft pick, doesn't it? Let's face it, there's an element of risk in every pick, you know. Just seeing Jackson Carman celebrate with his family and was just wonderful. And so I think, you know, absolutely everyone is behind the guy, and I hope that he does it. I hope that he becomes our starting right or left guard for the next 5-6 years, you know. And
it's the part of the draft that I like is watching the Bengals put out the video of the telephone call to them, because this is a call that changes these young people's lives, and they've been working towards this for so long, and it's so big for the family, and it's great to see. I think the Bengals missed a trick this year. Someone else commented on this, and I'll run with it because I think it was fantastic. I think that in round 1, that call shouldn't have been made by the organisation. It should be made by Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow should have simply messaged or rang his mate Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And when he picked up, he would just say, "Are you ready to do this?"
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all that would be needed, and that would have
that would have been great, wouldn't it?
For the rest of the team, when they hear that, "Are you ready? We're going to roll again," and that would be fantastic. But there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now then, there is sort of, just when you thought it was all over, the list of undrafted free agents are doing the rounds. What you guys? I haven't actually seen this yet, so do you guys want to just go through who they've picked up or allegedly picked up?
Well,
so I've got the list in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'll go through them play by play. So the first one is a running back out of Kansas, Puka Williams. A lot of these I'm going to be saying I don't know much about them, with the exception of the kicker.
Well,
as again.
Puka Williams was a running back late in the draft process. I was always picking up in my mock, so I had a look at him. He can shift. He was the first one that I saw we signed almost as soon as round 7 finished. So I think they lined him up pretty quickly. And again, it's no surprise that they went for another camp body and hope that he sticks. So I was quite pleased with that one.
Okay, we have from The Ohio State University, we've got Drew Chrisman, who's a punter. I have done a little bit of digging on Drew Chrisman because I did have punter on the list before we re-signed Colin Hill. He is well liked by Buckeyes fans. I think a year on the practice squad, and we might be looking at him as the long-term starter after that point. But I think we have him for a year, just sitting behind Kevin and have him absorb all of that experience.
We can sign 15, but we only keep 10 on the practice squad, I believe. Or we traditionally only keep 10. I'm not sure whether the rules have changed. It would be unusual to keep a punter there. So he would have to be very good if he is. But you're right. I mean, Hubert signed another 1 year, and eventually we're going to have to move on from him. So let's see if Drew Chrisman sticks.
Okay, we got Ball State cornerback Antonio Phillips.
Yeah. Don't know anything about him.
Neither do I. But, you know, it's nice for him that he gets an opportunity.
Another Phillips. I mean, he's going to be competing with another Phillips and who else? Eli Apple, maybe, for the bottom of the roster, isn't he?
Yeah. We got TCU tight end Pro Wells. He appeared in a couple of the bottom of my mock draft. So,
I mean, he's a pass catching tight end, which is good. That they're looking at the pass catchers rather than the blockers, the inline ones.
Okay, we've got defensive end Darius Hodge from Marshall. He's going to be facing quite an uphill battle to get anywhere on that roster with the depth that there now is at defensive end.
What I like about UDFAs are they're often from the smaller schools. And when you then see the reports, you then see the fantastic nicknames of some of these schools. And I love Marshall's nickname of the Thundering Herd.
Yes. I mean, it sounds like Cockney rhyming song. And the next one is Colin Hill, who's a quarterback out of South Carolina.
The Gamecocks, apparently. That's their nickname. The Gamecocks.
No, I mean, not a huge amount of experience and not a huge completion, not very good completion rate. I think it was under 60%. But he's a camp body. We've almost always kept one quarterback on the practice squad.
Imagine if you're Colin Hill and you come from a school with a nickname of the Gamecocks, and then suddenly you are going to be practicing every day, potentially, with Joe Burrow. Isn't that amazing?
With the big cock. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Well, allegedly. Mozza says Pro Wells was a former basketball player, apparently, so certainly intriguing.
Yeah.
All right. I like the sound of that. I always like the sound of basketball players becoming tight ends.
Exactly. All the best tight ends have that basketball experience.
And isn't there a wide receiver as well? You've got Riley Lees from the Northwestern Wildcats.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Dave. Not Dave. Sorry, Pete.
No, call me Dave. It's all right. My wife.
It's really early, man. It's really.
My wife
early.
calls me by different names, so that's fine. Yeah.
Oh.
Go on, go for it, Jim.
Honestly, that's going to stick from now on. Come on, Dave. Shut up, Dave. Come on. Feel like Only Fools and Horses, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's going to be
he could make the roster. He could make the roster because he's a kick and punt returner. He's a kick and punt returner. I mean, he's shifty, but he's a kick and return a punt and
which is one thing we missed out on in the regular draft, right? We missed out on this speedy gadget guy who can return kicks. So Mozza says Puka is the first guy we've signed with no toes on one foot, so it's a first at least. We're going to have to investigate that claim, Mozza.
Oh, bless him.
So anyone who's a fan of people with athletes with no toes, then you come and support the Bengals.
That's hard. That must be hard to run.
Yeah,
toes are underrated.
It eliminates turf toe as a problem, so that's one injury you can't get.
No corns or bunions as well. So yeah.
Small
anyway, right. So I think there's going to be quite some. I mean, Zach said he didn't want to be in a position where of last season where they had to sign guys off the street. They were. I think it was the first time really he admitted. Because Zach's always Mr. Optimistic, more or less, isn't he? But the first time he really admitted that last season really was difficult because of the amount of. I mean, they had to bring in Covington and Mike Daniels and Xavier Williams and all these guys.
Well, the whole of the interior D line were players that hadn't gone through camp with them. I mean, it's no wonder the interior D line was a problem.
No, absolutely. But I think his point was he doesn't want to be in that position again. Yeah. So you can see them doubling down, tripling down, adding loads of guys to the secondary. There's going to be some fierce competition, isn't there, along those two lines? So it's kind of quite exciting, really, I think. So anything more to say, gentlemen? Who was your favourite pick? Well, we all know what James' favourite pick was. Dave, what was your favourite pick?
Well, Stephen, I'd have to say Jamar Chase, obviously. I mean, it's exciting to imagine what it could be. And just as you said, the brashness, that's we've not been used to that. I mean, a lot of relatively new fans to the team just know Dalton and Green, and they were quiet, underspoken, and that was became the Bengals way. We've gone back to an old way now, the way of Chad Johnson. We've got
that's an interesting point. I think it does hark back to the Chad Johnson, the Johnson years, and also the Hushmanzada and
fans won't be used to that. There will be some fans, the younger fans, will not be used to that.
Yeah, it could be quite a fun ride, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, did you see Chad Johnson rang?
Yes.
Much to he says, "How did you get my number?"
Yeah.
And the other thing that was really nice was to hear that the organisation was saying that some of the existing players on the roster were all contacting them, asking them for the telephone numbers for each of these new recruits.
Yeah, right.
They wanted to message them and reach out to them straight away. So that shows good camaraderie. But I'm excited about what Chase could be. I think that in Boyd, Chase, and Higgins, that's a three which, and we spoke about this yesterday. The skill positions, those three plus Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow, that's 5 skill positions, all young and all under contract for 3 years. There's your future. There's your future. That's exciting.
For me, it's Joseph Osai. I think I love Chase. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be great, and I think he's going to be a really fun ride if all goes to plan. Really fun, and we could be the talk of the league again. Who knows? Let's hope so. For me, it's Osai just because I think it's great value. He's exactly what we need. It's a good bit of business because we let Lawson go, and they got a lot of criticism for that. But they could have quite easily picked up his replacement at next to nothing in terms of cost. I really do think there are a lot of comparisons with Lawson and Osai. So can't wait. I can't wait to see these guys in stripes. I can't wait for OTA. I'm not sure what they're doing with OTAs this year and kind of mini training camps and all the rest of it. We're going to have to wait and see. I know some teams have sort of opted out, haven't they? And I think the Zoom revolution last year maybe kind of took away the need for some of these practices and whatnot. But I mean, what have we got next? We've got the schedule release coming up. So, the way the Bengals have been absolutely slaying things on social media. We're looking forward to, I don't know what we're looking forward to. We're looking for something very fancy. Definitely not Houdet on a scooter. Maybe Houdet in space this year. I don't know. Maybe that's something that they would do.
Yeah, Houdet in space.
Have they answered us what number Houdet is going to be in? Because Jamar Chase is taking his number 1, isn't he?
Yeah, we'll need to change that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the I think that's coming up on the 12th of May. And then, of course, the usual stuff. But, you know, it's around this sort of time, a month away, where things get very quiet. So we've got a few things lined up to keep you entertained. But, you know, keep in touch with us, guys. And thank you so much for all your interaction, all your fun things during the draft process. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Thanks to everyone that's been involved. Pete, Jamie, Andrew Dockrell, Nathan Sangara, Rory, Daniel Jones, and also who else was involved? Liam Corlett. Loads of people have been involved, loads of people contributing, and yeah, it's been a great fun yet again, a great season. We've got a whole bunch of new players. Let's hope they all kind of make the roster and make a big difference, because it's going to be a fun season if it is. So thanks again for watching our final edition of Good Morning Bengals. We'll probably be back next year doing this. So thanks to Jamie and Pete yet again, and it's goodbye for now.
Goodbye.